Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly webinar, and Happy New Year. The graph that you see is not the number of Omicron cases in America, but it's much deeper, actually. But we are talking about measuring things today, and I'm glad you could join us. We have just two quick questions for you at the beginning here, just to get us in the right frame of mind. First question is, how do you measure your forms process today? So this is just a really simple question to ask you. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We've got a person saying they don't, and another person saying, I use Power BI, which is great. Several people are now saying I don't. So you're in the right place for the webinar. Thank you for being here. We've got, I think everyone has, we're going to share the results with you, I think. How do we do this? Anyway, we have I think 83% are saying I don't, and one person is saying, 17% are saying I use Power BI. So we have a pretty small audience today, but those are the official results there. We're going to do one more quick poll and question here, and that is, what are you not measuring today that you would like to measure? And I want to do a shout out to Alicia Cooper at Prestonwood, who gave us this wonderful idea today. She wanted to know how many users were logging in with their mobile browser, and we started thinking, gee, that would be nice to actually capture and measure. And then we kind of took it from there, and we actually are measuring a lot of things, including all the things I put down in here. So it looks like we have a very interesting response pattern here. It's, of course, is multiple, but it looks like the number two top requests are how long the form took to open and how long it took to save. So those performance metrics are, I think, the top two. They're tied for first place. Then we have how often did how often did they open it without saving, type of browser. Those are the tied for the second place, and then time in the form is the worst, is the last one. So thanks for doing the poll, and would also like to do a shout out to my team members today. We have Ailmel Clemente, our top forms designer in the Philippines and in the world. She's with us, and she's going to be doing a quick demo here in a minute. And we also have Don Frack, who is recovered from the mild Omicron, and he's with us today and doing well. And he's going to do a quick demo at the end too, to show you a bonus technique. So stick around for that. So we're going to talk about recording usage data stats in your form. And this is obviously good for lots of things. We're also going to show you how to, basically this is what you saw in the webinar invite, these four bullets. And the second bullet, storing data in UTC, is important because you might have people in different time zones. The metrics, then you can add them and then create some kind of Power BI or whatever. You can use some other tool to look at the actual thing in a graph or chart it, and then finally at the end we're going to show you a new technique for timing the form out, and this is also useful in the context of measuring, because you may want to keep, if you see the users are in the form for a long time, you might be concerned, because if they're in the form a long time, then it's probably the case that they might lose data. I've got an artifact here in my slide deck. I'm sorry about that. Let me fix the artifact. And we'll reshare here. But yeah, so if they're in the form a long time, the browser has a timeout of, like, I think if you disconnect from Wi-Fi, it's 30 minutes, I want to say, which means that if you don't reconnect, you'll lose that session state on the server, and then any data they have will just not be saved. So you might want to make sure that they're moving along in the form, and that last technique that we're going to show, the bonus technique, starting the timer, is a good way to do that. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm just going to quickly show a demo, and then we'll come back to this slide. Okay, so I have my expense report form here, and this is the one I use in a lot of my demos, and you can see this is our mobile-friendly response form. It tracks to the width of the screen, and in fact, I'm going to change my width a little bit and see if the metrics differ. I think if I'm in full screen, it's going to be like 1600 and something. So I'm just going to fill this out real quick. We're going to get some rapid antigen testing today, which we know gives a lot of false negatives if you don't swab your throat. So if you're using these rapid antigen tests, you definitely want to swab the throat and the nose. It's totally gross, but okay, so there's my Binex now, and we're going to hit submit. Now, before I do this, let me just show you what's happening here behind the scenes. So we have this debug section in the form. You can see the first thing I'm doing here, or Mel's doing, or we're doing in the form, is we have this new command called write log. And this came into FormSviewer back in November. 6.2, I believe, was the official release. And this allows you to log some data in the form. So we're logging the beginning, the start of the form session. And then there are all these things that we do on load to load resources to make the form look good, you know, the CS, the JavaScript, all that stuff. And then you can see at the very end here of this load sequence, we have another write log command. Was a lot of stuff going on here, Mel. This form has got so much stuff, it's crazy. But if you look at if you look at the end here, where is it? Right there. Right here's where we're actually saying, okay, we're done with the loading rules, and we're going to log this time, and then we're going to actually submit that information on how long it took to open to a SharePoint list. And this is this Qt form stats. So if I go to that list, here you can see that I just submitted. Let me just see if I can find the right one. Should be the one at the top right now, I would think. Maybe not. Oh, this is UTC time. So there we go. So it's 4 o'clock in London right now, or it's 4:11. And you can see this is the one that happened on open. And if I now submit it, we should see it took a long time because I was in the form about 20 minutes. So I'm going to hide my debug, click submit. The form is going to submit. It's going to take me back to the library. It's actually going to generate a PDF, but it's not doing that for some reason because I guess I don't have a receipt attached. So we'll just let this go and we'll just refresh the list form and see if we have a new entry. So we didn't see the write log in the debug window because the form closed. But if I look at, you can see there it is right there at the top. So I was in the form for the difference between these two items, 6 plus 12, 18 minutes. So you can see that's the same GUID, the globally unique identifier we're using. So in your Power BI, you would use that then to compare these two, to understand how long the person was in the form. Now you can also see we have duration here. And this is the number of seconds when the form was open. Now, it did not actually get the new resolution, Mel, when I scrunched it down. I wonder why not. That's kind of interesting. But you can see here that the duration was 6 minutes to open, or 6 seconds to open, 4 seconds to close. Mel, what's this session duration of 1069? Do you know what that is? Is that milliseconds?
Seconds.
That's seconds. Is that 18 minutes? 18 times 60? I guess it is. Okay. That's cool. We can find out, right? We can do
yeah, it's 18
times 60. I guess it's pretty close. Yeah, it's just shy of 18 minutes. So that's the total number of seconds that I was in the form. That's great. And let's see here. That's it. So basically, let's go back to our slides. And Mel's going to show you how to add this to your form. We have a very simple XML template part that you can use to add this. Now, why would you want it? Well, as Peter Drucker said, if you can't measure something, you probably can't manage it. So the more ways you have to instrument or measure your process, the better off you are. Specifically, if you're thinking about supporting mobile users, you might want to know how many of them are logging in with a mobile browser. That's the Alicia Cooper's inspiration. Thank you, Alicia. But also because you may want to just measure, how long it's taking them to open the form. And that might be an indicator of some problem. Like if you see a change, like a delta in the amount of time it's taking someone to open the form, then you can proactively jump on it and try to figure out what the problem is. You can contact us and say, what's going on with FormSviewer? So, those are the reasons why you want to have this in your form. Really easy to add, takes 5 minutes. And I'm going to switch to Mel, and she's going to show you how to do that. Meanwhile, if you have questions, now's a great time to post them. And I'm going to make Mel, you're now the presenter. Go for it.
That's right. Am I showing my monitor one?
Yes, I can see your patient consent form.
This is the patient consent form opened in the designer, and there's nothing in it. I mean, the XTP isn't in here yet. So we're going to start adding it. I've already added it in my custom controls here. We're calling it the QD form stats. So I first click on an empty spot in my form there, form canvas, and then clicking on here, got some text here that should help you, but they're kind of long, but they're really just straightforward. So injected roles, we did that, added the XTP, custom controls, and then here's clicking on an empty space and clicking on the QD form stats from the XTP, from the custom controls pane. Okay, and then now to actually fire the rules in that XTP, we go to the finished loading node, start adding this rule to trigger the init onload. So add a new rule action. Let me say initiate QD form stats, and we'll just add a set of fields value rule. Go to our XTP logic. That's all that text is saying. So set this field to go. I'm going to show you the rules behind there in a while. So here it says, make sure that the rule is placed at the very top of your existing rule. So we're just going to move this to the top because this is what's logging, the start of your form session. So it's important that this is placed at the top there. Okay, and then add the logic to submit the form session stats. So this is where all the form load rules have executed, and now you're logging how long it took for all that to run. So now we're gonna go to our the end of our rule here and add another at the bottom. This one will submit the open stats. So I'm gonna call it that, and just add set of fields value back to XTP logic. This one is what we want to fire the rules of, so just set that to go. And here again it says make sure that the rule is placed at the very bottom, because again we're logging the end of that, end time, total time, duration of all the rules that run. Okay, so let's see here. I've got some other notes there because you might have other rules that says don't run remaining rules. For example, this one. You might have this checked, right? So if that's the case, then this submit open stats won't run. So the log, the stats won't get submitted if this had stopped. So what you want to do in that case is just add the same rule right here where you got the, the stop going, something like that, okay? So I hope that makes sense. And if you ever encounter any issues, you can contact us always. So that's it. Of course, we shouldn't forget the temp command, temp result stuff, because that's what we always do with these XTPs that use clear rules. So I'm just going there, and you might be all familiar with this. So I'm just setting this to point to my actual cure rules command, and this one to point to my actual cure rules result. And that's it. And then these other steps are optional, but you would want it based from the poll answers. You want to monitor or measure your submit performance as well. So here we provided this button that has this rule that has the action, so you won't have to do them by yourself. Just copy this guy and place it. It says place it in your save and submit button, or any button such as approve, reject. So basically anything that submits your form. So going back to the patient consent submit button here, we only have that one. So we're gonna paste. All right, so yeah, so we just pasted that from here, and then some other notes there. Then here in the first, we're going to set the action, and then if you have any existing rules. Okay, so this should be at the very top. Okay, going back there. This one set the action to submitted. So if my button is a save button, I'm going to set this to save. So that's what's going to get logged into your form stats list. But in this case, let's just leave it as submitted. Okay. And then it says, make sure that it is at the very top of the sequence. So I'm just going to move this up. Hopefully I can get there over here. Okay. All right, there we go. Let's move it up. Okay. Log, submit, start, and then finally submit or update the form stats. This is the same logic as what we did with the open, right? But this time we don't want the form to close yet until we submit the form stats. So place it right before the close. Okay. So before I talk about, maybe I'm going to talk about the logic behind the scene, how things are happening, but let's just see how this works. Let's save that out, and now I'm going to publish to another instance here. And just browsing real quick here. I'm going to allow anonymous, maybe send a link in chat. You guys can try it, maybe from your mobile device. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the form as anonymous, and then we'll see what we get in the logs. Hopefully this worked. Okay, that took some time to open. We got the right log going on, so that probably worked. I'm going to refresh here. We'll see that all these entries are for the expense report. There should be a new entry for the patient consent form right there. This is the name of the template. So here we'll see that the user opening it was anonymous, since I opened it from the external link, right? And it detected my browser. I'm using Edge, whereas Patrick had been using Chrome all this time. And this is actually the resolution of your monitor. It's not the size of your window. And then we're going to show you how it detects forms being opened from mobile. So it took 4 seconds for that to open. Now, if I try and I'll do inspect here just to simulate that we're opening from a mobile device. Let's go to meeting, just go to webinar pane, go away. Okay, so I'm going to open this in a mobile device. Let's go with, let's go iPad Air. And just go with that. And I'm going to refresh. Let's see what, okay, it is doing some JavaScript stuff. We don't have a good tablet view here, but refresh. You should get another entry that is also opened by anonymous. This time it detected tablet. This is a resolution of that screen. Cool. Yeah, opened, and you can get the same if you're opening it from an actual mobile device.
That's awesome, Mel. Hey, that was very quick that you added it just so quickly. Literally, I mean, it was less than 5 minutes. But the quick question for you is, if they're using the technique that we often show people of how to use, like their phone to authenticate, text them a number and they typed in the number, then you could replace that anonymous user there with the user that you look up from the list, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, Peter had a quick question about how much of an impact the logging will add to the open performance, how much of a delay it'll add. And I said it would be small. I mean, obviously 4 seconds is still within our 3 to 5 second window. We want all forms to open within 5 seconds. But do you want to talk to that, maybe reply in more detail? How long do you think it will? The submit to SharePoint list is the main thing that's taking the time, right?
Yeah, the submit to SharePoint list, but all the others, just writing a log, setting the value, loading a resource, that should 1 second maybe. Sometimes get 0.
You can show them in the browser, the debug tools, how long things are taking. Do you know how to do that? I know Jimmy and Hillary do a lot. Instrument, what is that tab? I forget. It's like you can show how long everything is taking.
And the network tab here.
Yeah, and then you refresh it and you can tell. I don't know if you can tell how long the submit SharePoint list is taking it this way. Do you think it's possible to show?
Let's see.
There it is,
Individual.
right there.
One.
Very top. How long is that? Maybe it's not showing us. Maybe there's some way to figure it out. Timing, maybe?
9 hours 62 milliseconds, yeah.
Oh, okay, I can't see that because the webinar thing is in the way. So that is quite a lot.
Yeah, that's a minute.
So it's about a second. We're adding about a second to the load with the submit SharePoint list. That would make sense, though. So yeah, that is the price you pay to get your data logged. Now, obviously, if you're pretty happy with the onload, well, you really want to add this so you can tell how things are working, and then later maybe remove it. But I don't think adding a second is that big of a deal if you're trying to get logging information. Maybe there's a way for us to speed it up. We'll have to look into that. Anyway, thanks so much, Mel. This is great. I'm going to switch back to my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so real quick then, Mel just showed how to add that to your new form. So we demoed it in the expense report form, but she showed adding it to the patient consent form, which is a form we featured in our training class last November, December. If you haven't seen our training content, we are going to be uploading it soon this week, and we have a lot of new content. This training class that we just last did in end of November, beginning of December was mainly featuring Forms Designer. So Mel's still using InfoPath Designer to add the XTP, but we are pushing really hard to get the Forms Designer feature parity with InfoPath Designer by the end of this quarter. We might slip into April. Right now, we're tracking it very closely to make sure that we do get it done in a timely fashion. And Jimmy's working really hard on it. So it's 100% of his effort really right now to get that done. And it's going really well. There's a lot of stuff he's adding. We are going to be adding XTPs to the Forms Designer so that you can have all these XTPs will just like be built in. Here are the steps that Mel showed. Yeah, so those XTPs are going to be built in, but they won't be there for 1.0, not all of them. We're going to probably need another release over the summer. So in the meantime, you can still go back to InfoPath Designer and add them. We keep the backward compatibility and the forward compatibility with InfoPath Designer. So if you're going back to InfoPath Designer to do something that you don't find in Forms Designer, that's not a problem. And we have another question. So before we get to demo 2, okay, it's worth a second. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, so let's do one more demo here. And you can see, there it is. There's the demo. I'm just going to refresh this form. So this is my timesheet form. Now it's going to switch back to the dashboard, but we'll let it do that. And then we'll open up. You can see I still haven't finally submitted my timesheet from last week. I'm really behind this week. But we'll open the one from this week, which is not behind. And this is my timesheet form. And you can see here that it automatically saved my entry from that I just added here. So I'm just going to add one more thing. I'm going to add let's add another item here, and you'll see it time out. So what we're trying to do here with this new technique, this bonus technique, is we're trying to automatically log out the user. I'll just say email or something like that. So I'm just going to wait 20 seconds here, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And then we should see it automatically prompt me. Maybe it's not going to do that, Don, because I don't have the special switch in the URL. Can you give me the special switch again? I'm sorry, I think I lost the narrative here. If you can add that and let me open it again, that would be great. I don't know where you add the special switch to get the demo form to work correctly. I guess you have it here. Okay, sorry, I'm just being stupid.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay, let's see if this does the trick here. I guess there needs to be some indication that we're actually in the special version, the special variant. We're mutating our forms. Okay, so I'm just going to add one entry here again, and hopefully we'll see it now. So I'm just going to wait 20 seconds here. And so the purpose here is to move the users along. You don't want them, well, if they leave their desktop or whatever, you don't want some interloper to come by and add some weird data to their form and hit submit and pretend that they were that user. So this is a security reason we add the auto log out, but we also do it for that reason I mentioned earlier. And there you see it right there. We've got a little bit of an artifact here where it's not, that button needs to be a little bit bigger, Don. But you can see it. The really cool thing that Don has done, and this is innovative, is he's got this countdown here, which I really love. So I'm just going to do it again here to show you. But the countdown is very similar to what we see with the online web pages, right? Where you're logged into your bank, and after a minute or so, it will automatically. It doesn't actually have the countdown for my bank. I use Wells Fargo, but this countdown technique is really nice. And obviously, you wouldn't want to make it 20 seconds, which is very, very short. Is it going to work now, Don? I don't know. Is it broken?
Yep, it's going to start counting from the last time you made an edit.
Okay. Hey, there it is. Okay, 2019, 18. Yeah, so then you click here to abort. And obviously, like I said, 20 seconds is way too fast. You probably want to give them at least a minute, if not more. But you can see if they wait until the end, it's going to automatically save the form and log them out. Or just tell them, hey, look, we just saved it. And then they can see that if they come back to their computer and know that the data wasn't lost. So this is a really cool technique. And the thing that Don has added that is new is this timer. So the timer is actually recording. Well, maybe Don, you should just tell them. I'll just shut up here. We're using this XCP. You add the XCP, and then it's got. Do you want to talk about this, Don?
I wasn't prepared with this, but
No
sure.
Well, how's your Omicron? Tell the world how it went.
Yeah, it was.
Was it mild?
I had a bad headache. It was like a regular flu,
Yeah.
but with a bad headache. So I still feel like I'm dazed right now.
Are you confused and dazed at the same time, or are you just? I guess not, because you got this webinar done.
Lightheaded.
Lightheaded. Well, I hope everything's well there, and don't work any longer. Please go to bed. But glad to hear that you're back. So with the how-to here, how number 2, you're going to be adding an XCP. Did you actually want to show them how to add this, Don, before you leave?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'll just make you the presenter then. There you go.
Okay, so for this one, I'll be using a starter template. Now to add the XTP, we'll just go to the custom controls here and browse for the Qt timer XTP. Okay, so I have it there. Click on finish. Now, after adding it to your custom controls, simply locate the XTP here from the custom controls and add it. Now, to enable this, all you need to do is first configure the temp qroles nodes over here. So we have to set this to the actual command node of qroles. And for the second action, I'm just going to paste that there, and this will be the result node from your qroles node. And after that, there's a config node here wherein you can increase or reduce the duration. So for this one, this is for showing the prompt window. So I'm just going to reduce this to 15 seconds. And for this one, let's reduce this to 10 seconds. This is the duration for the logout. After showing the initial prompt, it's going to show another the timer. So for this one, I've set the timer to 10 seconds, and I'll enable the log out here. So if you have this disabled, it's not going to auto-save the form. It's just going to continuously show the initial prompt and ask if you're still working. Now I'm going to enable that so that it's going to log out your form. But for demo purposes, I'm not going to configure the save or the submit logic. We're just going to show here the prompt. And all we need to do is either you can trigger the timer to start using a button, or in this case, I'll be using a form load rule here. Okay, so I'll just name this for run timer. And I'll set the run timer node at the XTP logic here to start. So if you want to end the timer, you can put end, but in this case, we want it to start. And okay, so I'm going to just say the starter template here.
So you could basically make a couple buttons in your form to start and stop, right?
Yeah.
I see.
And in this case, we use the form load rules. So I'll create a new template here.
So it automatically starts on open.
Mm-hmm.
Do you reset it when they change where they're on the form?
It resets when there are changes in the form.
Okay. That's important. Otherwise, they only have 20 seconds to fill the form.
Yeah.
We have a question from Chris. Okay, so you're just waiting for timeout then, right?
Yeah, 20 seconds.
So Chris had a question about doesn't matter where you stick the XCP in the form, and you got kind of some weird artifacts there with your scroll bar.
Yeah, it's messing up with the CSS of the starter template.
I kind of like the bigger countdown though. That's kind of nice. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Very quick to add that. My gosh, that was so fast, Don. That was amazing. So thanks so much for that. And Chris's question about where do you add it in the XCP? I mean, if the XCP doesn't have any view elements, it doesn't really matter where you add it, right? Or does it?
It depends. Because I've been experiencing some problems with forms with CSS, but you can. I usually just place the cursor underneath all the display, and then add the XTP.
Like at the bottom of the form?
At the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom of
the
form.
So if the form has CSS, you're saying be careful because it might interact with the
yeah, one. Sometimes it messes it up.
Got it. Okay. When does that happen usually?
Well, if your form has already has a CSS in it.
Okay, got it. So it always happens.
Sometimes.
Okay, I got to figure that out.
Most of the time, yeah.
Well, thanks so much, John, for being here. I'm really glad that you're feeling better this week. Yeah, so what Don did was he added that XTP. It took about a minute. Configured it with the seconds and whatnot. Once again, you don't need to start it on form load. You can do it with a button, and that's nice because then you can have like a start-stop button for people who are trying to measure their time in a task. So they just click on something, they do the task, and then okay, I'm done with that. They come back and they click the button again. Okay, well, any more questions? I really appreciate those questions, Chris and Peter. Thanks for being here. We, of course, like I said a moment ago, we are working our way to get Forms Designer feature compatible with Info Path Designer. What does that mean? It means the major features are done. And right now, the main stuff that's remaining are the data connections. There's a lot of different kinds of data connections you can add in Info Path Designer. You can connect to a SOAP-based web service. You can connect to a REST-based web service. These obviously SharePoint lists and libraries, and you do submits and so on. So we're trying to finish that work and hopefully get that done by the end of this quarter or April sometime. Our Forms Year product has been out now for our replacement for InfoPath has been out for, gosh, it seems like forever, but probably at least 7 years, a little more than 7 years. We started down this path in 2014, actually. January when Microsoft announced that they were deprecating InfoPath. And over the years, we've added a ton of features, and we continue to innovate with these like add-ons, which I think are great. And we really appreciate all the inspiration that you provide when you're trying to do new things. In this case, I want to thank Alicia Cooper again for her wonderful idea that we took and used for today's webinar. We will give you the whole package, the kit and caboodle. You'll get it all. Just got to answer 4 quick questions at the end here, and it should be easy to do. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for being here. Stay safe. Watch out for those crazy people online, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Mel.
Bye.